Fish fly replete in depth of June, dawdling away their watery noon, ponder deep wisdom, dark or clear, each secret fishy hope or fear. Fish say they have their stream or pond, but is there anything beyond? This life cannot be all, they swear, for how unpleasant if it were. One may not doubt that somehow good shall come of water and of mud. And sure, the reverent eye must see a purpose in liquidity. Mr. Line, sorry. Mud onto mud, death eddies near. Not here, the appointed end, not here, but somewhere beyond space and time is wetter water, slimier slime. And there they trust, there swimmeth one who swam ere rivers were begun, immense of fishy form and mind, squamous, omnipotent and kind, and under that almighty fin the littlest fish may enter in. Oh, never a fly conceals a hook, fish say, in the eternal brook. But more than mundane weeds are there, we darkly know. By faith we cry, the future is not wholly dry. Fat caterpillars drift around and paradisical grubs are found. Unfading moths, immortal flies, and the worm that never dies. And in that heaven, of all their wish, there shall be no more land, save fish. Okay, hands up if you think that was mystical. Okay, we have four. Okay, 5. Nice. Okay. Interesting. So what I love about this poem is that it begins with, like, is there anything beyond? So you think it's going to go down the conceit of, like, you know, when you're in the womb, you don't know that there's a beyond the womb, but there is. But actually then it kind of inverts it in a kind of power dynamic, because land is kind of oppressing fish, right? The land is this kind of oppressor. And so the idea is just to expand the water into this celestial watery plane. But it's also kind of to do with, you know is what you get. And there are scholars that have argued that the interpretation we give to mystical experience has to come from resources that we know already. What about this, guys? I wanted you to close your eyes, no peeking. Could you tell me whether you find this mystical? Gnome, yeah, I agree. By the way, if you're interested, that was Takahashi Yoshimatsu, his piano concerto. It's amazing. The Birds Are Still. Listen to it. It's changed my life. What about this? It's the emptiness in the city that puts the wholeness in the music. Derek May, who's one of the main innovators behind techno music. What about this one? Sometimes you're born into an ending of a world. And you know that because the future doesn't work anymore. So use a different logic. We'll see why we're doing this in a second. What about this? Readiness isn't a matter of knowing what's going to happen. It's a matter of daring to find out. Okay, interesting. No one. Yeah, I'd probably agree. And finally this is actually called Unio Mystica. It's by an artist called Geoffrey Boschart, who was part of a movement that were kind of fantastical realists. And they took a lot of the surrealist ideas, but were more on Jung's side than Freud's. So you can see like Odin and Hermes in the corner and Aphrodite, but there's also this kind of crucifixion in the center. So it's kind of trying to unite a lot of the world's religions into one painting, basically. Which is certainly how mysticism was taken probably before the 1980s, and still by hippiedom, still by psychonauts today. So let's jump into the next section. The reason I was doing that, by the way, was because mystical is a word that's bandied around, and there's it's questionable whether it's even a coherent concept at all. Obviously, I asked you, is this mystical, which is an adjective? We're kind of looking at mysticism, the noun. So you know, things kind of in colloquial speech are more or less mystical, but we're going to actually unpack what the history of like what mysticism has meant. So it comes from the Greek word muo, I conceal or I hide, and the mystikos was an initiate of mystery religions. The mysterion is something that's still used in Greek Orthodox theology today, instead of what Latin derivative churches call sacrament, which is an outward invisible sign of an inward invisible grace. And yes, the word mysterious comes from the same root as mysticism, and it's a very mysterious concept. So I was at Eleusis 11 months ago on the equinox, and recent archaeological evidence suggests that they did, and many of you will know, take a form of barley wine that was probably ergotized, so a fungus grew on it. You can ask me for the reference there, but it's probably the case that they had this barley wine and that it was ergotized, so very similar to LSD. But I really wasn't feeling tripping. I just wanted to go there on the day